Welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape, United Methodist Communications and UMC.org's podcast to help us keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joe Iavino. Today we're continuing our Give Love series for Advent, where we're talking with one missionary each week during the season leading up to Christmas. The missionary I'm talking to today is Temba Nkomozepi. Temba is an engineer from Zimbabwe who is currently serving as an agriculturalist in Kanyama, Zambia. We talk about the wonderful ministries that are going on there, and we talk about the ways he uses his gifts for engineering and his passion for water to serve people and to the glory of God. Temba, welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for taking the time to speak with me today and to let us know a little bit about your ministry. So tell me about your ministry at Mujila Falls Agriculture Center in Zambia.
Thank you very much. I serve as an agriculturalist, and I'm also the director of the Mujila Falls Agriculture Center, and that's in northwestern part of Zambia, which is in southern Africa. So basically my work is split into three. The first part deals with farm management, where we are talking of, let's say, purchasing inputs, producing meat, eggs, milk, grains, and the marketing part. Then the second part is rural development and training. So we in this part, we have small income generating projects, and we train agriculture and life skills. And the third part is church growth and development, where we want to bring the same development we are bringing to the community into the church to also empower the church.
What does it mean that you're an agriculturalist? What kind of things do you do for that part of your role?
So like with us, agriculturalist is just a broad term to cover all that we do in agriculture, where agriculture is a complete industry of its own. So we are using the technical aspects of how crops grow or how animals are bred, and then we take it to be part of this project so that we can take seed and grow it into a full grain, or you take a small animal, you feed it well, you take care of it, the medicines and everything, and then when it grows big, we either give it away or sometimes we sell them to keep the project going.
Wonderful. And I also know that you participate in some education and health projects. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
The project is very broad. So in education, we are directly related. We have a Mama Roxanne Daycare Center. This was named after our founder's wife. So we provide early childhood education for children who are between the ages of 4 and 6. So that's also a part of the project. We also give opportunities to young adults. We employ them or give them some work in special periods so that they can raise money for examination fees. Some of them will have failed the first time where it's free through the government. So to have them have a high school qualification. Then we also have a pastor's children scholarship program where we are assisting some pastor's children with the tuition or school fees for primary and secondary school education. Then we also train. We have partnered with the Peace Corps, and we have courses that we do every year for animal husbandry. And there are two trainings. One is with the Lunda, which is the tribe that's around us here, and then there's the Kaonde tribe, and that's a little bit far from here that we take every year. Then on health, you'll find that there's always that nutrition and health nexus, where I think you've heard the saying that good food is the cornerstone of good health. Mm-hmm. So we are working with clinics or outreaches that sometimes they request us to provide like milk or eggs or certain vegetables to people who have certain ailments or are on medication for different things like broken bones, or some as extreme as chronic illnesses like HIV and AIDS. So by that we are involved, but we don't administer drugs or anything. It's just that how nutrition can help also with health. And here malnutrition is still a big issue. So it's still seen amongst the women and children. Maybe they also based on the cultures of not eating certain foods or certain types. We help on the nutrition side mostly in health. And then as a missionary in the conference, I was also appointed to be part of the health board because of that nexus I talked about. So even now with the recent COVID-19, we received some funding through the health board, and we've been going around sensitizing people about COVID-19.
Wow, it's really broad, all of the things that you guys are doing to help support the community. And I also understand there's a huge church element involved too, that you're also meeting spiritual needs for people. Tell me a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yes, it's really broad. So as we are working in the community, yes, it's basically a community project, but because we work under the bishop and we are United Methodist based project, we would also like to bring that same development that we are talking about in the community also to the church, which is also still not as established as we want it to be. So in the church, we have many initiatives that we are part of that we think can help the church grow. So one of those is even, like I mentioned before, on the education, where you are educating pastors' children. So it's kind of preparing future leaders that are educated in the church. Then we also take advantage of the connection of the global United Methodist Church. So we are kind of like a link between churches in the US and churches in Africa. For example, last year we worked with the First United Methodist Church of Midland in Michigan to that wanted to help some of the churches around us. So they helped them to purchase chairs, drums, choir uniforms, and to do their floors and walls and things like that. So we also believe that one of the ways that the church can really grow and be empowered is through empowering the church members. So we are also focusing on agriculture training for sustainability. So on that aspect, we haven't been very successful so far, but we do train church members on projects, and sometimes we empower them with a little seed that they can go on and carry on their own projects. Then we are also involved in the nutrition, like at meetings. Sometimes we help them to find foodstuffs. And some of the meetings are held here at Mujila. So whatever we train to the community, they also have a chance to go through it. So you'd find that almost all the church members around here, they know what goes on at Mujila.
Yeah, so they're involved in some way in all of the work that's happening there. Yeah, that's really exciting. I noticed in your biography too that you have degrees from Africa University and also a PhD and a master's degree from a college in South Korea. And lots of that is about water, right? That's kind of a passion of yours. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of water and the ways in which what your studies have found and some of the important things you would like us to know?
Thank you very much. So starting from my undergrad, I come from a very, I could say, semi-arid area in Zimbabwe. So for when we talk of agriculture, you can't talk of agriculture without irrigation, for example. So it was one of the areas that I was most interested in, that even a dry land, if you have irrigation, you can grow anything you'd want to grow. People were growing in the very dry seasons, you'd grow wheat. So that's something I was interested in. And when I went to Korea, it was just an opportunity I had gotten as a government scholarship. And when I was there, I my target was just to do the master's. But then I realized, because I was a full-time student, there was nothing else to do, and I did too many credits for that master. So I had even extra research for that master's program. So I could do my PhD in much less time, so which I did in slightly less than 3 years. So I thought I'll take advantage of that, and that's how I managed to do that. Water is really my passion, and it's very simple, but you find there's a huge impact that we can bring to areas all over, especially when we are be able to provide water and use it efficiently in agriculture.
And does that continue to be an issue in places throughout Africa and in your mission field?
I think so. Areas here where I am it's a little bit different. The climate is we'll be going towards the rainforest in the Congo. So the rainfall here is very high, like where we are, but it's only high for a particular season. Mm-hmm. So you find you're only depending on rain, and rain you can't really budget. So overall, the rainfall in where we are right now in northwestern Zambia is very good, but still sometimes it's not consistent. And I think irrigation can still do a lot, even where we are, even controlling things like acidity and really, if you want to have that good quality crop or even that level of rearing animals, I think irrigation is still a very important part of what we do.
And you see the water as kind of a spiritual issue, is that right?
I think so. To accept, let's say, the teachings of the Bible, we all have to find some connection to it, something that you think this is talking about me. To me, with my interest in water, you find there's many examples of water in the Bible, how it was used, whether it's for God's purposes or its examples, even many other aspects about agriculture. So to me, I take it as, especially to me and other farming communities, that this is something that we can connect, that these teachings are also for us, because it's as it was written many years ago, it's still applicable today. So for example, like that verse that's on my bio on the United Methodist website, the mission website, you find that valley, filling it up with water, at that time, that's a miracle. But today, so many water engineers around the world are performing those miracles, and we are able to get water for irrigation and for drinking, potable water, and things like that.
As I talk to missionaries around the world, one of the things that I've been learning is that many of you have gifts for ministry that are not the things we immediately think of as gifts for ministry, right? You're not necessarily the preachers and teachers. You're not the musicians necessarily. I mean, you're an engineer, educated engineer who's kind of found a way to use those gifts to fulfill God's call on your life. And how did you get to that place? How did you begin to see your gifts for engineering as a way of doing God's work in the world?
Even myself, I never thought that it would come to a day that I'll be a missionary.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as someone who grew up in the church, because I was born, my parents were Anglicans, so I was born in that church. And as you grow up and you are in the church, you always want to do more. I used to do just small things in the church, not really minister to others, but just the small things just to help out to make it happen. As I developed my career, I was part of it's called the Koika Alumni Association in Zimbabwe, which is it's a grouping of people who were sent to Korea by it's called Koika, which is the Korean International Cooperation Agency. So it sends out kids to South Korea to study. So I went there for a short course. They sent me on, so I was part of that alumni. So when I was in the leadership, we always get a small amount that we decide what project we want to do to help out in the community. So at that time, we decided to help out. There's a school in Zimbabwe called a school that educates and it houses disabled children. So we decided we wanted to help them with a greenhouse. So at first, it was just one of those things that you want to go there, you want to hand over the greenhouse, and that's it. But because, like in our committee, I was the only person who was involved in agriculture. So to build the structures, to set it up, and to train them how to use it, I was now the one who was in touch with them. And as I was in touch with some of these children who are disabled and people who are not trained, because all my previous jobs had never been like it's direct to help individuals. It's just maybe you're working to provide something to the market, or it's all business.
Yeah.
But when I did this, I really felt this agriculture is this purpose in people's lives. So whatever you are, like if you water a field, for sure it will produce something for you. So I started to feel like maybe this is the work that is fulfilling. And then that's when I saw the posting of my current position right now. And it wasn't posted as missionary. It was an agriculturalist somewhere in Southern Africa. So I didn't even have the details. But because when you are interviewed by GBGM, there's a wide range of questions they ask you, and many screening and through the interview process. So I started to see that this is more than just the business of agriculture, but this is just the impact. And I thank God that I accepted this job, because it has now given me that like sense of purpose, where you can, I think all of us, we want to do that what we do, we want to also use it for the glory of God. Something that in the world is just a job, but then you clearly see how people receive it as this is from God. And when people thank you and they thank God, you answering someone else's prayer. So I think it's really fulfilling.
Yeah. And I just keep coming back to that in the Bible, getting the water to that valley was seen as a miracle, but that's a miracle that engineers do regularly. And so it really is a service of doing what God calls us to do
Right,
in these amazing ways. And I just love hearing these stories about how people find their way
right.
towards using these gifts for the glory of God. You mentioned that you're originally from Zimbabwe and you're now working in Zambia. Can you tell me about like what's different about living in another country?
The funny thing about this is that Zimbabwe and Zambia, these are neighboring countries, right? So, but as I think about that now, as you're asking me, it's very difficult to tell the difference because both have become like home. I've now been in Zambia for about 3 years. So, like, when you are home, you kind of adapt to to how.
Yeah.
In Zimbabwe, I lived in the capital, that's in town in Harare. But here I live like in a very remote place. So I think even if I was living in a remote area in Zimbabwe, maybe the differences would be the same. So just that town and rural, yeah, I think that's maybe a big difference.
Tell me what's the most exciting thing that's happening in your ministry right now? What gets you energized about that's happening?
It has always been very broad, but what has happened at Mujila is that this project was founded by Reverend Paul Webster, who has since left the project. He was promoted and is now living back in the US. So as I started to take over, it's really exciting because it's an opportunity that we are now moving the project in I could say, slightly different direction. You'd find that the community that it is now, it's not the same as when the project started. So, for example, there's been just globalization alone, and then there's also efforts by government or even the founders of this project. When they started it, they had to even prove some concepts that you can actually plant maize and harvest it. People just thought maybe it's always shipped from those places where they give out hunger aid. So I see what's exciting in this future is that we are taking just the local people are now holding positions and now they're getting training to do so much. So I'm sure in the future you hear more about Mujila's projects we have a soybean multiplication project, which is like a contract farming outgrower scheme type of arrangement. So in the future is going to be more and more people are going to be empowered. More employment is going to be created, and I think there's more people who are going to see the hand of God in their own lives, so that they can also help others.
And is there a particular challenge that you guys have?
So the challenge remains that we are in a very remote area. So sometimes, even if you want to have a product that you can take to market and also help others to bring it, we face challenges in that end. But otherwise, God is helping us, and we continue to ask for the supporting churches and to continue to help us with funding and ideas, and just God to help us to get the correct connections to keep this project going.
And Temba, I want to ask you the question that I ask every guest of Get Your Spirit in Shape. How do you keep your spirit in shape?
I think I thank God that I'm here with my family. So I was, not recently, but maybe 2 years ago, I was married and we have a young son who's now 11 months old. So that family who is here with me, we really spend time together. So if we feel like we are far from home, sometimes we use the internet, maybe we play some, whether it's a church service, some songs, whether movies. So I think thanks to them, I'm keeping my spirit in shape.
That's wonderful, and what a great anchor in your life to have your young family to kind of share your faith journey with, and to give you that perspective when you need it. Temba, I just thank you so much for taking the time to share your ministry with us, and I especially want to say thank you for the work that you do every day to support and to train and to feed and to work towards the health of all of these people. Thank you. I so appreciate your ministry and so admire the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
That was Temba Nkomozepi, a United Methodist missionary from Zimbabwe, serving in Zambia. To learn more about Temba and his work at the Mujila Falls Agricultural Center, and to support him and his ministry with a donation, Go to umc.org/podcasts and look for the notes page of this episode. We've put links there to help you learn more and to make that donation as part of the Give Love campaign through United Methodist Global Ministries. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with another missionary conversation that will help us keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joy Avino. Peace.